Okay, we're going to do a quick video on some strategies for multiplication. So first of all, we want to just address any digit multiplication. So digit multiplication for numbers 1 through 9, those you just really have to know. You should be able to do those. What we're going to do is we're going to look at strategies for when you have double digit multiplication. Now, if it's a single digit times a double digit, then probably what a lot of you do would be something like this. Let's take, for instance, we do 16 times 7. And you do the vertical format, and you do 2, and you carry the 4, and 7 times 1 is 7, and you add 4, and you get 11, and you get 112. And that works, and that's not a bad method, and it's relatively quick that way. But another way to think of this is always think of the double digit as a sum and or a difference of something. So in other words, I think that's 10 plus 6. So I'm doing 10 times 7, which is 70, and 6 times 7, which is 42, and then I'm adding that. And then when I add, I even have another strategy involved. 42 is really 30 plus 12. Now why 30? Because 30 and 70 give me 100, and then I add that 12, and that gives me 112. Now, this is all a lot of writing. But when I do this, I'm actually doing this in my head. This is all mental math. It's not writing this stuff out and doing it. So again, we talk about math being patterns, but math is doing the same thing in different ways. Now, where this really becomes helpful is when we think about doing two double digits together. Okay, so let's do, for instance, I don't know, 18 times 13. Okay, so if you do the vertical pattern, you get 24, and you carry the 2, and 3, and 2 is 5. Then you do the place value of 0, and then 1 times 8 here would be 8. And then 1 times 1 is 1, and then you add straight down, and that's 3, and then you carry the 1, you get 234. But again, what I like to do is I like to think of it as two different groups. So I think of this as 10 plus 8, and I think of this as 10 plus 3. So now what I'm doing is what will be known later on is FOIL when we start doing algebra. So it's a good introduction to what FOIL is, and I'll show you. So I rewrite these in parentheses, 10 plus 8 and 10 plus 3. Now again, that's because that's what gives me 18 and 13. FOIL is a means of multiplying this. So you do, the reason it's called FOIL, you do the first terms. Okay, so that's your F. 10 times 10 is 100. Then you do your outer terms, the two on the outside, that's your O. 10 times 3 is 30. Then you do your inner terms, the ones on the inside. 8 times 10 is 80. And then you do your last terms, and there's the word FOIL, F-O-I-L. 8 times 3 is 24. Then you're adding all those together. Well, that's 110. That's 100, so that's 210. And then 24 would be 234. Now again, when I do this, I'm actually doing mental math. I'm not writing all this out. I'm just visualizing it in my head and doing it. So let's try another one here. Let's make it a little bit more difficult. Let's try 26 times, I don't know, 13. Okay, 26 times 13. All right. So again, you can do the whole vertical method. I'm thinking of this as 20 plus 6 and 10 plus 3. So if I write that down and visualize it in my head, I know 20 times 10 is 200. I know 20 times 3 is 60. I know 6 times 10 is 60. And I know 6 times 3 is 18. So then that's 120. Plus 200 would be 320. Plus another 18 would be 338. So it's just a different way of doing it. Again, this whole form here we refer to as FOIL, and we'll look at that again later on, like I said, in algebra. So the last thing I want to address here is talking about our squareds. When I say our squareds, I'm talking about square number values. So most of you probably learn your squareds through 12. So if we say 1 times 1, we get 1. 2 times 2 would be 4. 3 times 3 would be 9. 4 times 4 would be 16. And you would do all your squareds all the way up through 12. Now, that's all well and good in middle school, but now in high school, especially in algebra, you need to make it all the way up to 20. And we're going to have an exercise involving this, but say for instance you need to be able to do 18 times 18. Now you can do that doing the whole multiplication thing, but the other thing you need to know is you need to know how to do that by just knowing your squareds. So for instance, if you did 18 times 18, you should get what? So we say 324. So this is, again, something else that we'll practice here, is knowing your squareds. Again, most of you are probably good through 12, but you need to be able to make it through 20. So this is just a real quick overview of some different strategies for multiplying, and hopefully these will become helpful. If you have more questions, again, find a method that works for you, but you can go on Khan Academy and maybe see some different strategies they have there as well.